Right now, though, I want to bring in the Conservatives House Leader, Andrew Scheer, who joins me live. Mr. Scheer, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you very much for making the time. The argument that I started off my interview with Mr. Holland asking him about was the one Mr. Poilievre was making towards the Prime Minister off the top of question period around the McKinsey contracts. What I garnered from those questions was the allegation or the accusation that basically the Liberals were helping people out at the expense of helping out Canadians. Or regular Canadians. What would your government do other than cutting the carbon tax to help people who are struggling with, if you were government, struggling with the cost of living?
Well, it's important to realize why people are struggling with increased costs. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, inflation is at record highs. We know that that inflation is caused by inflationary deficits. When the government of Canada has to go and borrow more money than there is in the economic system, and the Bank of Canada pays for that by printing new money, creating new cash, more dollars chasing fewer goods leads to inflation. So what the Liberals like to say is that, oh, it all went to the pandemic. We know it didn't. Over 40% of what the government was spending didn't go to help Canadians get through the pandemic. And the McKinsey contract is a great example of that. Over $15 billion in contracts to high-priced consultants, including McKinsey, which of course has a very cozy relationship with the Liberal government. So our point is that the higher prices in the grocery stores are directly linked to this increased spending that had nothing to do with getting Canadians through the pandemic.
Okay, let's piece apart a couple of things. First of all, my reading of the PBO was about 30% of the pandemic spending was not temporary in nature. But second of all, where inflation is concerned, your party's primary argument has been, as you just laid out, that this isn't something that happened due to exogenous factors, that it's the government that did it all. I looked into that because I knew that you were going to say it, and I know that your party has been saying it. And the most specific analysis I could find came from Scotiabank, economists at Scotiabank, which said that the specifically government spending led us to estimate that government transfers account for 0.45 percentage points of the rise in inflation we have observed since the end of 2019. Inflation sits at 6.3% right now. So 0.5% is due to what the government is doing. That's according to Scotiabank. That's not my analysis. That's not the Liberals' analysis.
So that's one person's analysis. I look to the current governor of the Bank of Canada, the man responsible for creating all that money in the first place. And he said inflation is increasingly a domestic phenomenon. I mean, I would put it to you, Vashti, like, do you think inflation is kind of like the weather, that, you know, it just kind of happens? Like, you can look at the Farmer's Almanac in April and say, oh, if it rains on April 15th, we're going to have inflation in October. It's a monetary phenomenon. When the Bank of Canada creates $400 billion out of thin air, uses that money to buy government bonds for the government to spend, and prices start to go up, it is directly linked to those deficits.
There is definitely a link, but that's not to say other factors didn't contribute to the issues Canadians are facing right now, because it's not just Canadians facing them. Lots of other countries, all the other countries in the G7 endured inflation.
All because their central banks did the exact same thing. When the Bank of Canada decides to engage in the government's fiscal policy, which previously the Bank of Canada had traditionally not done. Usually the Bank of Canada says, look, our sole job is to keep inflation low. The Bank of Canada made a decision not to do that. It made a decision to help Justin Trudeau pay for his spending.
So are you saying the Fed in the U.S. was helping Joe Biden? Was trying to help Joe Biden? They're all political?
If every government around the world did the same thing, it doesn't excuse the fact that Justin Trudeau is responsible for the inflation here today. Lots of central banks did exactly what the Canadian central bank did. That doesn't mean it had good outcomes. They're suffering from the same problems that we are.
But could it also mean that the intention was not to make life harder for Canadians, but to help out an economy that had bottomed out due to the pandemic?
There are people like Pierre Poilievre who were warning at the time that when Justin Trudeau was going out and saying, we're going to go into debt so that you don't have to, Pierre was warning Canadians, saying there will be a cost to this. The idea that the government could spend all that money for free and not have any impact, no, it just stretches
Who were they not supposed to spend the money on?
Well, great question. $15 billion to high-priced consultants. The government spent $15 billion on outside consultants while at the same time increasing the size of the public service. So they're hiring more people working for the government while they're paying for more contracts to consultants. At the same time, lots of companies got the wage subsidy, for example. Lots of profitable companies that turned around and used that wage subsidy to help pay for bonuses for their executives. Lots of examples of the CERB going to people who shouldn't have qualified for it. We supported helping Canadians through the pandemic, not giving it to people who didn't deserve it or didn't need it, or companies that were already profitable and used it to pay for big, fat bonuses. So these are the types of examples that we can say, okay, look, of course, unprecedented pandemic, but
Right.
lots of spending. And I believe the number is actually 40% of the spending had nothing to do with the pandemic. So that's a huge chunk of that inflation. So our message to Canadians is A, we can help reduce the cost of living by reducing the cost of government, and B, we can avoid what we can reverse the course that the Trudeau Liberals are going on by making the cost of living even worse by tripling the carbon tax. The government is going to make the carbon tax go even higher. So home heating, any good that has to be transported will all get more expensive as well. So that's our message to help deal with the cost of living.
So putting aside though the carbon tax for a second, if $300+ billion of pandemic spending bumped up inflation by half a percentage point by Scotiabank's estimate, are you going to cut $300 billion of spending to reduce it by half a percent?
Well, again, I don't accept one person's estimate. I go by.
It's an entire bank. It's one of the big banks in this country.
But the current governor of the Bank of Canada says inflation is a domestic phenomenon. Bill Morneau, former finance minister, also said that the increased spending had a huge impact on inflation.
He made that comment to me. He said we probably shouldn't have spent so much, but at the time, you had to get the money out of the door soon, or what the effect on the economy could have been even worse.
Lots of examples of Conservatives warning the government to put in the types of safeguards to make sure that, yes, get help out while Canadians need it, but not to have that help abused. For example, wage subsidy, companies that receive the wage subsidy that turned around and paid their executives massive bonuses.
But I remember covering that, and I don't remember the Conservatives at the time saying, you know what, don't give this money to companies, don't give this money to people who have lost their jobs, because we need to make sure that the forms are more completed, or is it kind of revisionist history?
No, Vashi, if you go back and you look at those exchanges, we were demanding that Parliament be recalled to provide that kind of oversight. The Liberals chose to ram things through the House of Commons without the proper debate and diligence. They had support from the NDP and the Bloc Québécois. The Conservative Party, we were warning exactly this. We were saying, if you rush these types of massive billion-dollar spending through without the proper due diligence, you will have the unintended consequences of increased spending going to people who were not, who didn't need it during the pandemic, and that would have dire consequences. Now Canadians are suffering through the worst inflation crisis in 40 years. It stretches credibility to say it has nothing to do with government spending.
But it's not nothing. I'm presenting the opinion that it has nothing. I'm just saying the outside analysis that I can find that isn't political in nature does not say it's to the level that you're attributing it.
I should say, of course a bank is going to love the Bank of Canada gobbling up those government bonds. Bank shares in this country have skyrocketed. They're making record profits. The fact of the matter is Canadians are paying higher costs at the grocery store on their home heating, on their fuel bill, because the purchasing power of the Canadian dollar has been diminished as the government has flooded the economy with brand new cash not backed up by
government. So I have a simple question. I have 30 seconds left. I mean, they're going to cut me right off. I have a simple question for you. How much would the Conservatives cut from spending in order to reduce inflation then?
Well, what we're starting with, our first proposal is to say that the government should do what's called pay-as-you-go, that if every dollar of new spending should be accompanied by a dollar of reduced spending. We've identified $15 billion going to high-priced consultants. That's an easy place to start. The ArriveCan app, that balloon costs. We've got lots of examples of things that we could eliminate that wasteful spending without affecting the quality of services that Canadians receive.
Okay, I have to leave it there. I'm out of time. Thanks for your time, Mr. Scheer. Appreciate it.